Hello everyone, welcome to our Elevated Existence YouTube channel. I am Tammy Mastroberte, founder of Elevated Existence and publisher and editorial director of the award-winning Elevated Existence magazine. Today we are here with best-selling author James Van Praagh. He wrote a brand new book that I'm very excited about, and I have it here. It's called Adventures of the Soul, and it's a little bit of a departure from some of his other books, so we're going to talk to him about that today. It is available now, and he also has a really great card deck that goes along with it that you can also purchase. But first, let me welcome in James Van Praagh. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tammy. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the new book. Very exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. Very happy with the new book, and it's a great book, and I've been living that book for 2 years, so happy now to share it with everyone.
Yes. So, well, actually, my first question is, you say right in the beginning of the book, this is a little different than some of the other books that I've written. And you've really spent the past years kind of teaching psychic development and you know, having people enhance their own intuition and mediumship abilities. So the first question really is, why is this book a departure, and what were you trying to get out there to people?
Well, the book actually wrote itself. I didn't write it. In most books I do, it's usually they have to write them, or the spirit world really has a plan on coming through and writing a book. And this one really was based upon my good friend Debbie Ford, who passed over, and helping her with her transition, and realizing that Debbie is really a light worker, is a soul, you know, a light worker, I should say. And she had trouble passing. And I thought that this is really interesting. Here's someone who knows this world very well. And it was difficult for her to go, and I thought, well, then we better help everybody out there in the public to learn about the transition, what it's like, and then he went even deeper about the soul and what the soul's experiences are, what the soul is about, and it was really kind of Debbie kind of writing through me, so I should be like co-author with Debbie, but it was really getting that story out there, and I realized there was definitely a need that people had to learn about what the soul is, and everyone wants to know what that means, and so it was my way of bringing that information to the public. So it's a different book than all the others I've done, in that none of the books, well, there's the first book really that I've done, except for the one, How to Heal a Grieving Heart, before, that I wrote with Doreen Virtue. But it's really, this is a book about, there's no readings involved, there's no connections with spirit, no communications that I've done prior that I speak about, or that I talk of, that I refer to. It's really just myself giving information about what I've received from the soul. So it's really, it's a book, it's a teaching book.
Yeah, and what I love about it is so many people have questions, and I'm sure you in doing teachings and actually going through workshops and stuff, people probably ask you all the time, like, they just want to know, you know, what am I doing here? What are the lessons I'm supposed to learn? Am I on the right path? You know, what is it really like in the spirit world? And you really kind of answer a lot of that in this book. So that's kind of the feel that I got from it. And so it's kind of like, if you've ever had any of those questions, you kind of answer a lot of them.
Yeah, it's important because it's really based upon, I guess you would say, or gleamed from many of those inquiries and questions people have about, in my classes and my workshops, about the spirit world, about the soul, about why we come back, the lessons that we choose to go through, and you know, we make things so more complex than they need to be. Really, the truth is pretty simple, but the human being doesn't want to make it that simple sometimes. But it's just a way of letting people know this is the way it is. It's more simple than we let it be.
Right. Now, you also, of course, share a bunch of different kind of like tips, and the whole back of the book has a section on meditation and things like that. So one of the things that you share early on in the book that I really loved was your skyscraper example, and kind of this that you have it on your bathroom wall or on the mirror, and then you also use it in meditation. So can you kind of explain to our audience what that is? Because I really like that symbol that you were using.
What did you say? What did you call it? The what?
The skyscraper.
Oh, the skyscraper, yes. I'm sorry, is that New York accent you have, or New Jersey accent?
Yeah.
Skyscraper. Yeah, it's a metaphor, and it's really a symbolic type of thing, in that, and I use it during meditations, and it's also just, again, another symbol. You can use an elevator, a skyscraper, you can use a tree that grows, and it's just a way for people to get a sense of that they are elevating their awareness, if you will. So it's really a skyscraper type of thing. I feel like we're on the bottom line, the bottom floor, the first floor, and if we want to raise our elevation, whether you go through an elevator, go up the elevator to the different floors of the skyscraper, or like again a tree going up higher and higher into the sky, anything that gets you from one sense of awareness to another higher level, or we can also say altered state of consciousness is where I'm going at, because it seems that when we can connect to the higher levels of our being, which is really the sense of the oversoul, the higher self, whatever we want to call that other high part of ourselves, aspect of ourselves, and really connect with that, we kind of let go of the heaviness of the physical world, and we tend to plug back into what we call source, plug into the oneness, and we do that through elevating our awareness or our consciousness. And the skyscraper is just a way of tuning in or getting a symbol that people become aware of how they can move up to higher levels. And it's just a matter of just connecting with self, connecting with your soul self, and bringing that self up to that higher level. So any means you can do that is great. It's a focus, it's a meditation, it's an awareness, it's a mind journey, whatever terms we want to use, just to get to that space.
Right. And speaking of meditation, you've talked about it in other books. You wrote a book that was dedicated to a lot of different meditations, and you really do, have a whole section of the back of the book, kind of like an appendix, dedicated to it. So I think sometimes people hear, we need to meditate, we need to meditate, we need to meditate, and, they may not really understand the real keys to it. Yes, it is good for your health, it's good for your blood pressure and all of those things, but it is key in terms of tuning into your intuition and, of course, tuning into even signs that loved ones may be trying to send to us from the other side. So can you explain why it is so key and it is so important?
Without a doubt, and the reason why is because, and from the beginning of time, it's really a sense of sitting in the stillness, sitting in the quiet. And I got to tell you that the quiet is very powerful. That the quiet is very loud, but the silence is really loud. And when I started beginning my development as a medium, one of the most important things that I had to learn was sitting in the silence, which is sitting in a circle, development circle, and learning how to just be quiet and listening to your soul. And first of all, becoming aware of what that feels like, what that sensation is like, of just sitting in this silence. And when people start doing that, they really start to get a sense of who they truly are, because you can tap into that soul, which has been through eons and eons and eons of lifetimes, experiences, so forth and so on. And so that's your truth, and that's your heart. That's in the heart. The soul is tucked neatly behind the heart. And I find that when you really start to, you close out this physical world, the mental world, because we do that all day, every day, we're just like bombarded mentally with things. When you get back to the softness and the stillness of the soul, that little voice inside, you begin to hear very clearly, and it's really interesting because intuition means into the soul, and the intuition is the language of the soul. So you really get clear signals of your soul's GPS, the intuition, the more you can start listening. The more you start listening, and you can learn to, if you will, slip down to that state of knowingness, which is this intuition, and really using that in every choice in your life. Because I believe that life is a series of choices. And you know the right choice for you if you listen to your intuition. If you're able to listen to that small voice within, that power within, and understand it and know it, then you'll make the right choices. And the only way I find to understand your intuition and your choices in your life is to have that still voice loud within you. You have that knowingness, that sense of beingness. That's who you are. You have a very strong relationship with that self. And it's not from the head, it's from the heart. Because if we have things in the head, we're going to rationalize, left brain things, criticize things, that judgmental human comes in the way. So you have to go down to your heart and start feeling it. So if you can have a relationship with that, and get that silence, that knowingness, and put yourself, it's kind of a neutral space, okay? It's kind of a neutral space, and it's a great space because you have your heart, your soul, and you really, I call it the heart space as well, which I love. And I think you do so much more powerful things from that space. And when you get away from the mental part, in a way you open up the mind. So it's very interesting because you open up the mind. I think the mind and the heart are very connected. And when you put yourself in that neutral space, you're not in your head, you'll be able to not only hear your intuition, but like you said, you'll be able to hear clearly those loved ones in the spirit world who are on a higher vibration of being. You'll be able to hear the nuances, the whispers of feelings of them, of their thoughts, of, I feel like my mother's here, I feel like it's my uncle here, and you start to open up that way too. So it's so important on many levels, and so powerful and impactful on many levels as well. That's why I think it's really important. And meditation is just a focused awareness. So if you want to call meditation mindfulness, being aware, and if you get that space of the heart and you start listening, You'll be aware. You'll have that sense of mindfulness. What's the right thing to do? What's not the right thing to do? What's in alignment to myself? What's not in alignment to myself? It's really, really powerful.
Yes, yes, and another part of what you do teach and you really cover in the book is a lot of people, I guess, are coming to realize that, you know, we really do plan what we're going to do here before we come, whether that's choosing our parents, whether that's you know, different opportunities or challenges that we might face. And so you talk about that, and people, I think, understand that, but then they get confused when there's this free will. Like, okay, well, we plan, you know, these things out, but then you say we have free will. And you explain a lot of that in the book. So can you kind of explain to some of our audience now what you mean by, you know, we plan things, but yes, we come here and we can do different stuff.
Right, that's right. That's exactly right. I think that before we're born into this environment, this three-dimensional human world, which is our schoolroom for the soul, we come back here to learn many, many lessons. Each soul comes back to learn their unique lessons and have their unique classes. Not that you can't share them with your soulmates, like your family members, your friends, the people that are some close to you or in alignment with you in the lifetime. So you're sharing, if you will, different soul lessons. Now, some of the soul lessons that I talk about in the book could be, you know, compassion or forgiveness or patience or awareness, or, you know, all different types of lessons that we choose. And I think that we come back with other souls, so we call them soulmates, soul family, soul group, and we choose to come back. We work with our counselors, our guides, our teachers on the other side of life to prepare for the exact time, which is the most opportune time for not only our soul's growth, but those in our group to evolve. Because we have to remember, we're not only evolving our own self as souls, we can grow without others being grown too. Because really, there's a sense of, and if you don't mind, I'm just going to go off a little bit here. There's two big illusions, and I talk about this in the book, two illusions in the world that we have in this three-dimensional human world. The first is death. We think that exists, and it doesn't. We can't kill energy. There's no way that there is death. There's no finality. There always has been, there always will be. And the other is a sense of separativeness, that we're separate from one another. When in reality, when you pass into the higher levels out of this three-dimensional world, when the first thing you feel when you die, if you have death, and you get to the other side of life, you see, oh wow, we are all connected, we're all one. And there's a sense of oneness. And like, what I did to that person, I'm really doing to myself, and there's that low love karma. So we tend to come back to learn these soul lessons, and every lesson is different. As humans, it's a hard place down here, but it's a great place, because here you feel things, and the physical things can happen down here. You can go through physical situations that you wouldn't be able to go necessarily in other realms. Losing people, grief, it's a hard one here. It's a physical condition of losing another soul, or an illusion of losing them. We don't ever lose them. Right. But these are various lessons that will hopefully make us stronger, help us to understand better, help us to have an awareness, help us to treat one another differently. So let's say your soul comes back with an awareness from many, many lifetimes or experiences that, you know, I have to learn about compassion. And maybe there'll be a situation that soul in the soul group has chosen for that soul to learn compassion by, just for instance, let's say they have a child that's handicapped. Let's say they're physically handicapped, multiple sclerosis. I'm just saying this an example. And they've chosen that, and they wonder, why would God do this to me? How could God do this to me? But through taking care of that child, let's say they have to take care of the child all the time, it's teaching that soul compassion, how to have an opening to give to another human being. And then also, that soul that's having this handicap has also chosen, with that other soul, to be in that physical incapacity, if you will, to teach that other soul compassion. So many times, many souls come back with handicaps, one type or another, to teach others about compassion, patience, humility, so we learn together. Now, that soul might have come back in many lifetimes trying to learn about compassion, and they find, well, let me just jump around here for a second. The soul has a memory, so the soul memories in that many, many lifetimes we have various situations. Let's say we learn about war. War is a bad thing, but we know we've had many, many lifetimes where we killed people in war, and maybe we've chosen this time to not do that, or maybe we've had a lifetime where we killed people, and now we've decided we can't do that. So when a certain situation comes up in that soul's existence this time around, where they have to really ask themselves, do I do it my memory is of killing somebody or going to war, or do I stop and realize in some way that's not right to do? Have I evolved that much? and you've come back here to evolve. So maybe at that particular point, you have free will. Do you want to go back to the old patterns of your soul that you've done in past lives and experiences over and over again? Or do you want to start something new and see something in a different way? You have the free will to choose, okay? You don't have to follow the past memories, or you have that choice what to do. It's got almost like a fork in the road, and you're there, and if you listen, your higher self will bring you, or your intuition will bring you to the right way that's right for your soul at that particular time. But we do tend to come back with soul memories and soul, how can I say this, characteristics from many ways of doing something in life or making certain choices, but always have the option to change, always. There's always a sense of free will. And if we tend not to learn it in this lifetime, we'll tend to learn it in another lifetime. Another analogy I like to use is if you can go down, you're walking in the woods, you go down to the lake, you're on your path, you decide, I'm going to go to the lake and sit down and have a little time there and rest. And you can stay there for as long as you want at that lake and hang out there and be there for a while. And eventually you'll go back to that path. You'll go back to that path which is for you. So sometimes it's up to us when we're going to go back on that path and stay by the lake. We have that free will when to do that. Hope that makes sense.
So we kind of have this blueprint, for example, that we plan out. And then when we get here, we kind of have all these different choices throughout our life as to whether or not we're going to follow that or maybe veer off. Okay.
It's all options, yes, all options. And the more we know ourselves, so we have all these options in front of us, the more that we know ourselves and the more we get to listen to ourselves, we'll make the right choice. Right.
So that was my next question, actually, is that a lot of people worry, well, how do I know I'm doing what I planned beforehand? How do I know that I haven't completely messed the whole thing up and I'm going right and I'm supposed to go left? So how can someone know that? How can they understand whether or not they're doing the right thing or on the right path?
Listen to your soul speak to you. So the easiest way is really learning to listen to your soul, listen to your intuition, the intuition into the soul. It's the language of the soul. So the more someone will take the time to listen and know what's right for them. Now this is a tough one because it could be really interesting to see and this might have been set up also before you came back, that the conditions around you, so let's say your family and your friends and society or whatever is pushing a certain way to be, a certain way to do something. For instance, let's say you have a sense, this is a bad example, but I'm going to throw it out anyway, to move, to take a new job in a foreign city, in a different city. And everybody says you should do that. It's better money. It's a better position for you. You really should do that. And that's really going to be good for you. But if you know deep inside your soul, and you know in your gut, it's not right for me. It's not right for me. You have a choice to make. Now, you can go along with what everyone says you should do, and you'll be, looked at with honor and whatever that other people. And if you want to live their lives, you certainly have a chance to do that. You won't necessarily be happy because that's not in your soul's truth. So you have to really come from your soul's truth. And the only way to do that is really be honest and honor your soul's language, your intuition, and really, and I say this all the time in all my teachings, you can't care what other people think, because what other people think of you is none of your business. And they don't know you as well as you know yourself. They don't know your soul like you know your soul. So even if it doesn't make sense, even if it does not make a bit of sense, if your soul tells you one thing, your intuition tells you one thing, and they tell you something else, and that looks pretty good, but they're telling it very reasonable and very responsible, but my soul says something different, you've got to go to your own soul's voice. Because you don't know, if you go to your own soul's voice and you do something, another incredible opportunity might come to you, like 3 months later, which is like, wow, you wouldn't have had that opportunity if you took the job in that foreign city. So you always have to listen to yourself, even if it doesn't make sense sometimes.
Right. And that's why I love the fact that you talk about meditation being so important, because that's kind of how you hone that whole intuitive voice, or some people call it a gut instinct or whatever it is. You really kind of learn to listen to that and kind of slow things down enough to listen to that.
Your soul's language. You hear the soul's voice.
Yes. Another thing that you talk about, and you have whole chapters on soul lessons and soul choices, but you talk a lot about relationships and how relationships are really one of the biggest keys to soul growth, whether it be intimate relationships or even family members and friends. So what is it about relationships that drives us crazy but is so key to really growing while we're here?
Well, it's a number of factors, of course, number of reasons behind it, but number one is a sense that everybody knows that you really, and again, it's the illusionary world that we live in. This is a three-dimensional illusionary world, so it's not as it appears. But I will tell you that the soul has set up these situations before they came back. I like to think, as Shakespeare said, and I do put this in the book as well, that the world is a stage, and we're merely, characters upon that stage. And I do believe that we come back and have different scenarios. Now, when you're in a family or with your friends, you can relate to those people. There's a sense, if you will, that they have a connection with you. Maybe your best interest at heart, so you kind of trust those people. And family members should be trusting to each other, and friends should be trusting, and partners should be trusting. And so just by having those scenarios, and you're going to invest part of your emotional self in that, in those relationships as well. So you think that people have your best at heart, but we might find that indeed they have their own, of course, soul lessons they have to go through. They have to go to their own way of doing things. They might live in fear instead of love, or however we're going to do this. The motivation might be very different than your motivation. So just by having the closeness of the relationships as family and friends, it's going to provide various emotional situations that your soul really has to dig deep and see really what your truth is and who you are, and not really measure yourself up to other people. I say that the hardest ones in our life, the hardest lessons, I think some of the hardest lessons, and the greatest lessons are with family members or partners, because they are your greatest teachers. So, and we go back to that sense of oneness again, that sense of the illusion of separativeness, in that if I'm connected with my partner in some way, we're connected in some way, or my family member or friends are connected, and they're acting a certain way, they're acting out a certain way, and I don't like that. I don't like it at all. Something's happening, and if I can't come from a place of compassion or forgiveness, then I'm just as bad as them acting out. So if there's a sense of that they're doing a certain thing, and I cannot forgive them, and we're all connected as one, then I need to ask myself, okay, if we're connected as one, then what aspect of my soul have I not forgiven? What aspect of my soul needs to come into wholeness of being, in order to fully forgive, or to fully be compassionate, or to fully understand and be patient? So because we're all connected and intimately connected with family and relationships and friends and partners, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder, but the expansion and the evolution is greater.
Right. Wonderful. Well, I have to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And again, everybody, it's called Adventures of the Soul. And if you're a Virgo like me and you're constantly looking for explanations on everything, this book is fantastic.
I'm a Virgo, always asking questions.
Yes, I always want to know why and how. This book will explain so much to you. So thank you so much for joining us, James, and we'll see you in the next book.
Appreciate it.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.